And speaking about audits, who better than to talk to than that to Dan Geltrude? Dan's been away on vacation, but we'd love to have him back. Thanks, Dan, for showing up. Well, how about that, right? I love that the tax talk that everybody has about the rich have to pay more. Who exactly is rich, and then what is that more they have to pay? And you know about this $400,000 threshold. But isn't it interesting that the Inspector General says we can't really say who's in that? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's exactly true. The IRS really should have the ability to sort data the way they need to, but be it as it may, there's a lot to be said on this topic. So that $400,000 threshold that everybody's talking about, listen, just because Biden or Yellen says that $400,000 makes you wealthy doesn't mean that it's so. I mean, where did that number come from? Well, it's double what it was in the 1970s. To me, that number is just a number you pick out of the air. It's kind of like, well, it's for sale at $19.99. Well, why not 20.01? So why isn't wealthy 500,000 or 350? Again, I don't think there's a rhyme or reason to it, at least none that I know of. So all this discussion about, well, taxes are not going to go up for anyone making under 400,000. I'm not particularly worried about that, Scott, and I'll tell you why, is because based upon the Trump tax cuts, which expire, by the way, in 2025, with split government, you're not going to have anything get done with taxes. So unless those tax cuts expire, I don't anticipate any of these threats actually happening.
Well, the one tax that we've all been hit with is obviously that 17% inflation tax. I mean, that's something that we've all been, and so to some degree, that's really been by the by. We've absolutely paid a lot more in tax. But another one I have a problem with is that when they say that they want the rich to pay more. Number one, we've just decided that term rich is arbitrary. But number two is, why don't you tell me what is enough? Let's not say just pay more. What's the number that they'd like you to pay? You can never, ever get them to pin them down on a number.
Right. And let's not forget, when you're saying pin them down, you're making reference to the federal government. Let's not forget our friends at the state level. So if you're in a state like California or New York or New Jersey, where I am, whatever the federal rate is, you could tack on another 10% plus for those that are among the highest income earners. So when you start to do that, Scott, now to me it's the tipping point. Once you get to where you're paying 50% or more of what you earn to your silent partners, the federal and the state government, to me, it's ridiculous. Put another way, the first 6 months of the year, you make no money. So you got to work until July 1st before you get to keep anything when you're at a 50% tax bracket. To me, that's ridiculous.
Well, and you're absolutely right. I totally agree with you. But on another hand, there are those that would say, well, if I would get something for my taxes. But it seems to me that year in and year out, we get less for the money that we pay in taxes, not more. And the government gets bogged down and bigger and slower. I mean, I don't think that the government services have improved at all since I've been a taxpayer. What do you think about what you get for your taxes? Look at your state, city, and local versus your federal, too. I mean, I don't think we're getting what we pay for.
We're not. And the reason for that is that the people that are handling our money, right, all of us taxpayers, right, it's not their money. So they're not watching over things as if it was theirs. We already know all the waste that goes on, whether it's at the state level and, of course, in Washington, D.C. So that's really what aggravates people. We already know we send our money all over the place. And by the way, Scott, as much as they collect, it's still not enough because we continue to go deeper into debt by the trillions every year. So what do we have to pay? 75% of what we make? Will that do it? I don't think so. That just means more spending. When
you keep letting people in the southern border and we have to feed, clothe, and house them without asking us first, by the way, and take all of our tax dollars to do that, I mean, that's one of the bigger problems, too. All these ideas that they have these grand plans, and I understand why they've done some of them, but at the end of the day, they don't think about number two and the second and third and fourth thing you've got to do to make that come to fruition. And again, look at just these outrageous tax bills that we're going to have to pay, and just even Chicago, New York, and San Francisco. It's absolutely outrageous. But that's a whole nother segment, a whole nother show, so I'm going to stop there. But thanks very much. Great to have you back. Dan Geltrude coming to us from Nutley, New Jersey. He's America's accountant. We're glad to have him back on Mondays. All right, here's a look at those equity markets. Let's take a look and see what we've got going on in the Dow. It's down 151 points, folks, and I'll just tell you this. Well, I'm not going to tell you anything. We're going to see what it's from. But take a look.